Okay, welcome back. We are here with Ruth Croft, the Kiwi icon. Ruth, Tarawera week. How are you doing?
Doing well, thanks. Thanks for having me.
How many times have you actually pinned a bib on at this event now?
Yeah, so we were just talking about it. It's my 5th time racing here. I did the 60K one year, but I think it was 10 years ago that I met you for the first time.
2015. Tarawera, it will go down in history.
Yeah. Well, you and Ruby took the wins.
Yeah, I managed to win the race. You and Ruby had a battle that year. We were just recollecting.
Yeah.
You dragged yourself home.
Yeah, well, Ruby kind of just went out pretty hot and I tried to chase and I caught up for her at 90K and then I imploded at 95K and then walked it in.
Yeah.
That's pretty much how it went down.
Your first 100K.
Yeah, it was.
It's funny to look back at that because I literally just reminded myself of this too. And then you went on to win CCC later that summer. And of course, your career's been incredible since then. So maybe just share a little bit about Tarawera, why you keep coming back here. Obviously, you are a Kiwi, so what it means to the local trail community here.
Yeah, so I keep coming back because it's, I don't know, if you stand on the finish line of Tarawera, it's pretty amazing. It's like over 5,000 people, I think, they get on the trails. And for me personally, it's easy to just jump on a plane up here. There's no jet lag or time zone change, so it makes it pretty simple. But yeah, it's just like connecting in with the New Zealand trail running community, which I really appreciate. Yeah.
How long have you been back in New Zealand? Because for our audience, you usually spend half the year in Europe, half the year here.
So I normally come back like November, December, and then I'm based here until kind of April, May. I try to stay as long as I can until heading over to Europe for the season.
One of the things we've been talking about with some people here that at least I felt true in my experience having done the race twice is that Tarawera is like a really good first race of the year. Like the trails are soft and forgiving. It's not terribly technical or steep. Maybe speak about that. Like, why have you kept coming back as like a season opener for you? Like, why? Like this timing of the year, I feel like is important given the race and the course.
Yeah. So even it's early in the year, and so I think I'm fit, but it's also I'm not like at the best, and it's best in my fitness. But it's like February, so you don't really want to be like rolling super hot right now. But in saying that, it's just, it's a good test to see where the fitness, how it's tracking, where it's heading. And so, and this year being a golden ticket race, it's good to just get in a competitive field and kind of get your mind back into racing after a bit of a break.
We'll talk about the golden tickets here in a little bit because I'm sure there's millions of people who want to know your perspective on that topic. But maybe first talk about your training a little bit too. I mean, you're coming off an incredible season. Last year, you won this race. You set the course record at Transvolcania. You were second at UTMB, one of the fastest times ever. An incredible season for you. How are you feeling coming out of 2024, and how's training been going?
I'm feeling, not too bad. I kind of shut things down for quite a while after UTMB. Had about 5 weeks and did one probably 45-minute jog and 1 hour ride, and that's all I did for physical activity. I just really needed a break because I feel like there was such a mental and emotional investment going into UTMB. And then I just started getting back into training, which felt horrendous because I probably should have done maybe a bit more to kind of soften the transition. And then obviously came back to New Zealand and had Andy Cochran and his partner Magda and her husband Richie and then Des and her husband also. And so we just had a good 10 days doing trails around Monica, and then I was back on the West Coast where I grew up and just running local trails and getting back into more of a full swing of training.
I'm just realizing, I don't think you and I have talked about UTMB ever, or since the race. And just for memory, the race was so incredible. Obviously, like Katie was off the front and you were sort of like really methodical, it felt like to me, early in the race, and then eventually caught up to Marianne Hogan, who had been running in second place. You eventually overtook her late in the race and built a big gap back to third by the time you arrived in second place at the finish line. Recollecting or just thinking back to UTMB, did it feel like a really surgical, well-executed race? Is there anything that you feel like you could have done better?
Well, I think, definitely Katie was in a league of her own that day, but I felt I executed my race plan as best as possible. I feel like I got the best out of myself on the day. I think everyone thought I started very slow, but that was all part of the plan. Like I thought it was to run a good race there. It really did. It was going to come down to how I paced it. And I had a very positive experience. Like when I think back to UTMB, I don't think of, there's not all this like really dark lows or suffering or anything. It doesn't come to my mind. And so I think that's a good thing when you're going into your second one, but maybe it's hard to recreate. But yeah, overall it was a really fun day and I enjoyed it.
Is there anything that comes to mind about performing well there? Because now I'm just realizing too that you're one of very few people who's been on the podium of all three of the world finals. Of course, you've won both OCC and CCC second at UTMB. That's a fantastic accomplishment for you in your career to have that, you know, consistency across the distances at that, you know, biggest stage in the world. Is there anything that you've learned about like arriving there ready to perform on that stage?
I think it's all about how you plan out your season. I don't like to over race. I like to give myself the space to go through like full training cycles. And so I think that's like, I think talking with my coach, Scott Johnson, it was all about giving myself like a big enough runway heading into UTMB without having to go through like tapering and recovering from other races. And just focusing, like UTMB was my a goal of the year and just having that. Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, so the race on Saturday, again, you're probably one of, if not the most experienced runners on the start line. A lot of people come here specifically for the golden tickets. What are your thoughts about the golden ticket itself, and how does that influence the way you approach the race strategically?
So I'm just going out there to race like it's any other race, not that it's a golden ticket race. It's going to change anything for me. So I'll be starting on the start line, just ready to give it everything. And that's not my focus, obviously.
But you know, that people will want to know, you know, if the golden ticket is presented to you. You're a Western States champion too, among all the things that you've done. Like, would you go back?
No.
Really?
I feel like for me, it's like in 1 year I have 100-mile match to burn, and I would never try the double. It doesn't motivate me whatsoever. Other people, obviously, it does. And so, I think for me to do UTMB well, it has to be my sole focus. And it's just like when I do a 100-miler, like, man, there's no way I can just mentally like flick the switch and be like 6 or 8 weeks later wanting to run another
See, I'm
one.
like you. It's like I need 5 weeks of like nothing.
Like I want to shut the season down. Like it's like I'm done for the year. I don't know how people do it because it takes so much out of me, and I just have no desire to do back up another 100-miler.
Yeah. So is it all eyes on UTMB this season?
For sure. Yeah, that's the goal. Yeah.
Oh. Yeah. It was kind of hip for a while of like people posting like their full season schedule this time of the year.
Yeah.
And you know, I think for a lot of people, the golden ticket is the question mark. It's like everything depends on whether they get the golden ticket. So with that being kind of out of the question for you, do you have a sense of like what the season's going to look like building towards UTMB?
Yeah. So I think we're going to try and just do a similar kind of copy and paste from last year. So Tarawera, and then I'm looking at doing Transvolcania again, just because it's a good build-up race to UTMB, and then maybe something low-key around June in Europe, and then UTMB, and that's it for the year.
Sweet. Yeah. I want to ask you too about, it seemed like you went on like a big adventure recently with like your pack raft trip or something like that, and it seems like you were doing that probably around the time that you also needed to be getting in some of the critical training for Tarawera. Share a little bit about that with the audience.
So when I come back to New Zealand, it's like I love doing like backcountry adventures. It's the stuff that really fills my cup. Like I can go do that and just feel like a completely different person. And so obviously when I'm training for UTMB, I don't really have the time for those kind of side project things. And so, when I'm in New Zealand, even though it wasn't the greatest prep for Tarawera, but it was just like sometimes when you get an opportunity to go and do that, you just got to go do it.
Yeah. You know, Ryan's going to be on the South Island next weekend.
Yeah, I hear that.
Next week,
I don't know if you want to come pack rafting with us, though.
He'll be at the brewery or at the winery or something like that. Maybe last question. We were just talking before we went live. You said you were just chatting with Kerry Suter. He's going to be joining our pre-race show tomorrow. Yeah. Maybe you could just share a little bit about Kerry as a preempting the audience for what how they're gonna meet him tomorrow, because he is a special person with a special story, and I know you guys have a relationship.
Kerry is a larger-than-life character. If you ever come across him, you will if you're at the start line. He will always make you laugh, and just Kerry and Ali together. They're just good people with really good energy, and just lift those up around them. And they're both like integral parts of Tarawera. Like when you think of Tarawera, you think of the both of them, and obviously Squad Run as well. And so they're very special part of the New Zealand trail running community.
Yeah. The original champion, Carrie Suter.
I know, yeah.
We talked all about it yesterday.
Yeah.
So we'll share more about Carrie's story tomorrow. But yeah, key member of the community, who's been around since the beginning and somebody who we all love. So, well, Ruth, good luck on Saturday.
Thank you.
Always great to get a chance to chat with you and look forward to following your race and your season.
Yeah, thanks for being here.
Cheers.
Cheers.